Well, hello, Chloe. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, thank you for coming. As you know, obviously, this show is all about having inspirational women on it and just really giving them a platform to share their story, tell what adventures they've been on and inspire other people.
Cool.
And you, my friend, completely lead the way.
Who hates being in front of the camera.
Yeah. I mean, we'll cover off the irony of that in a minute, but just by way of like a brief introduction to you, Chloe, like from what I know about you, you're just a complete badass. You started off your career doing events for Marriott hotels, starting like quite small in weddings and that sort of like parties and that sort of thing. And then you've migrated and moved and developed into like proper like world-class events. So like you do the ATC, which is the Asian Football Confederation. Yes. Got that right? Yes. And you do events for those guys, and then perhaps, well, more exciting to me because I don't know that much about football, is you do press stunts for Sony Pictures at Cannes Film Festivals.
Yeah.
And that's so exciting. I mean, just like in terms of like the organisation that you must have to do around that and the stress involved, I bet it's crazy.
Yeah, it can be. So yeah, I started off quite small working for Marriott, obviously doing small events, and then I worked for a larger company, sports entertainment company in London, and did bigger events and just kind of worked my way up. Not trained, not gone to university or anything like that, just worked through experience and just built it up. Probably got chucked into very stressful situations very early, which actually I think helps. It's worse at the time, but actually gets you involved and gets you learning more quicker. So
that's so exciting. And talking about sort of jumping straight in at the deep end, like what I should have finished off in your intro is your next bit of your like evolution in your sort of career and life really is that you've moved from events into starting your own film company with your other half Leroy, which is so exciting. Nocturnal Pictures. So and you've got a feature film coming out which you're going to be filming and then obviously releasing to the general public, which is really exciting.
It's really exciting. It's a big leap because I've always been someone that has worked in a full-time job, worked in full-time employment for most of my life. That's kind of what I knew. It's what my parents do. So I kind of 2 years ago took the leap, went freelance. So I still had a bit of event experience to fill in gaps while we were building up the company. But Nocturnal Pictures is Leroy's idea and birth child, and then I'm part of the company and producing films, which is exciting.
It's so cool. And the bit I have to get in, because I know you hate it, is you're also amazing at photography, and you've had your photographs in Vogue magazine. What? That's like crazy.
One picture, just one.
Was your picture in Vogue?
Yes.
Well, there you go. You had a picture in Vogue, so own it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got events there, you've got photography, and then you've got obviously Nocturnal, which is starting. What, like, because you're so talented and you've got so many different, like, things that you can do. What made you think, yes, actually, that is what I want to do. I want to do, like, film producing?
It kind of wasn't really, film producing wasn't really anything I'd ever thought of. It was never something that I was like, oh, okay, that would be cool to do. What I started with was photography. I always had a love for photography. Started off like landscapes, that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, actually, no, I really like putting together like a sort of editorial shoot. So something where I can organise it and get excited about, get the stylists, get the models, get the makeup artists. But I never really enjoyed doing the shoot. I kind of thought I did, but probably thinking about it, actually, it was more... Now I know what I like to do and what I love doing, which is producing, that actually the part of photography that I really enjoyed was actually putting it all together. And in the shoot, I was like, oh, okay, it's cool, I like it, but it's more putting all the pieces together to make something incredible. And the editing as well, I actually preferred over the shoot. Oh so I would do the shoot and then I'd get more excited about sat on my laptop editing it and creating these amazing pictures. But so that's kind of where I started. Probably where a lot of people know fashion industry is very difficult, especially photography. There's so many people doing it. There's so much access to cameras and magazines and that kind of stuff. So I kind of had a bit of a think about what I actually really want to do. I still do bits of photography, like I'm doing some stuff for the film, just due to budget reasons. I'm shooting the cast and doing the stills photos. But I kind of went from that and I was like, okay, I need to kind of think about what do I really want to do? I can plough more money into kit and photography, or I can actually channel what I actually enjoy doing, which is organising and putting things together to create something bigger, which is where the producing's come in. But yeah, a lot of that is down to my partner Leroy, who was like, I want to make a film. I was like, oh really? What, you want to make a film? Because he's obviously, his background is acting and, and that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, that's cool. You could direct it. Yes, it's different. And then I kind of started off just helping him. So we've done 3 or 4 shorts. And I was like, okay, I'll help put it together, not realising what I was doing was producing. And then from there, I kind of took the leap and was like, right, I'm going to make a career out of it and do it full time. So that's kind of where I am.
Love it. And like, obviously, we'll come on to like working with like your partner, your romantic partner, as well as your business partner, and all the challenges that presents for itself in a minute. But like, when you start, like in terms of like you're presented with an idea of like making a film, where do you even begin? Because I'm sitting here and I'm like, what would you do? Because you've got to find actors. I just get completely overwhelmed. And like, I don't know if you feel that, like, because the enormity, especially with a feature film, what you have to do, like, and even just like organising stuff like what people are going to eat on a daily basis and like catering and like before you get onto locations, costuming, finding people, like, how do you like, because I mean, I'd imagine like the organisational skills you use for that, you can apply to anything really. So where do you even start when you're like, right, I've got a monster and I've got to produce it?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a bit different in terms of producing for me because if I was a producer not working with Leroy, who writes and directs, I would start with finding a script that I really liked. So I would find a writer, a script that I'm passionate about and want to invest into, and then you would option that script. And then from there, it begins with the script and the story, and then you start building up the pre-production. So working with Leroy, obviously we're both massive horror fans, and he loves horror and he's had loads of experiences with paranormal and that kind of stuff. So he wanted to make a feature film, a horror feature film. So that kind of part of producing where I didn't have to find a script and a story was kind of taken away because we're building it together. So we had the script, we had the story, and we were like, okay, how are we going to start this? Because I've never trained in it. I've never done a feature film. But if you think about short films, it's not really much different. It's just longer and just more to organise. So I guess you'd start with finding the funding, which is the biggest challenge in film. So being our first feature film, we're funding it ourselves. If we weren't, and for bigger budgets, then we would look for private investment. You can get tax credit money. There's various different ways to fund a film. So you would start placing together your sections of finance. You've got your script, you've got part of your finance, and once that starts slotting together, then you can start looking for locations. Cool. So yeah, kind of you break down the script. So you take the script and you break it down to, okay, how many scenes, what locations do we need, how many actors, how many extras, what licenses do we need, what permissions do we need, all that kind of stuff. So we start with that, break it all down into a massive spreadsheet, and then just start from there.
So yeah, it's about breaking it down into manageable chunks, because like you say, like even finding funding, like to me that just seems like
funding's difficult. I'm sure every producer says it, but especially if you've got a bigger budget, you can't just have one source of funding. You need to have various different things, and they need to all slot together and work at the same time. You could get a bit of funding here, but then you need another bit of funding from there, and once that's all together, then that can take years. That can take 18 months, 2 years to get the funding in place. And without the funding in place, you can't then start certain things. So we were like, do you know what, we just want to get it done, and we just want our first feature done, and then we can move on to the bigger film. So yeah, we're pretty much funding it ourselves, so it's low budget. We've got full control of the film.
That's pretty good,
which is good. So yeah, I break down the script. We'll go through locations, props, art design, all that kind of stuff. So we know, okay, you take a scene and you know exactly what you need in it. So okay, a scene might have 5 different props. It might be set in a I don't know, woodlands or a house. And then you just start from there really, and then you just start scheduling it together, and then you can work out how many days you need to shoot for. And then you can then tell your cast that, and so it's it all kind of muddles in together in pre-production.
That's good.
So yeah,
oh, amazing.
It's a lot of work, but it's fun.
It sounds like I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't know how you cope with it. But I suppose like in terms of doing events as well, that's really helped you like your organisation, because especially like working for like someone like Sony Pictures, I imagine they're very precise on what they want. And obviously they pick a location and you have to work with that, no matter what sort of elements that throws at you? Because I know obviously like last year, the one that you did at Cannes was outside.
Yes.
And then there was one the year before, I think it thundered or it was thundering. And you had like a big metal structure.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar. I mean, I never really thought about it until Leroy mentioned, actually, what you do is very similar to film producing. I was like, no, it's not. It's completely different, but it's not. It's exactly the same. So I take, for like an event for Sony, for example, they'd have an idea, and then I would work with them along with the company that I'm freelancing for. What their idea is, how we execute it. We start with a budget and location, and just go from there. And then you just work through all the things you need, so health and safety and
organised, and
all that kind of stuff.
Like in a chronological order, I suppose.
So it all kind of starts with the idea, and then you go to the budget, and then locations, and then the creative, really. So it's a mixture of everything together.
Creative bit's the bit I like the sound of.
It's
everyone's favourite bit.
It's a good bit.
So you're still freelancing, as you just mentioned, at the moment, and obviously you're doing your feature film, and you're in the pre-production stages. How on earth are you like managing to balance the two?
It's tough. So with freelance and events, I get to choose what kind of events I work on. So for this year, I've literally worked flat out freelance to basically to build up enough money so I can take the next 3 months off to do the film. You can do so much in between work, but then it gets to the point where I just need the time. Right? There's so much to do within the next 6 weeks. So it's kind of, freelance is probably the best way because it's more flexible and I can pick and choose, and obviously you can get more money for less days, really, which is better in certain circumstances.
It's crazy that, isn't it? You can get more money for working less, but at the same time, because I know you were employed before by the company, that transition from being employed to freelance and doing your own thing is always very scary.
Very scary.
How did you cope with that?
It was kind of one of those things that I'd been toying with for a few years. So the whole time I was working full time, I would always, every evening and weekends, I would be working on what I want to do, whether that was photography or building up Nocturnal pictures with Leroy, working on the film. So there's always something. I never just was like, okay, I'm just going to work in a job and then not pursue any of my passions and what I want to do as a full-time. But it gets to the point where it gets a bit much, and it's kind of that thing that I never really believed in until I did it, that actually once you quit and you actually make a conscious decision, things sort of start happening. So I was kind of put in a position at the place I was working with where it was like, okay, I need to just go and just do my own thing. So it was scary, but I was quite fortunate that I had someone that I could work with freelance on a few projects, and it kind of just started from there. But saying about more money for less days, that is true depending on your industry.
Yes,
and obviously it's still quite stressful in those days that I'm working with because the job is stressful. But it works, and I'm kind of used to it now. So
that's good. How do you manage like the stress of doing everything?
Oh gosh, you spoke to Leroy, but like she doesn't. I don't know really. I've kind of got used to just dealing with it. It's stressful, but I've had so many different situations where I've been put in and different events that I've done that maybe have not gone well, or there's certain things that happen very last minute that I'm just, okay, well, if something's not going wrong, then I'd be surprised. So, I'm kind of just used to it now, and it's just lists, being organised. And probably... something I've started doing is, especially for this film, is, okay, what could go wrong?
Okay, that's interesting.
So I ask myself all these questions, like with certain scenes and certain occasions, okay, what could go wrong? Okay, if that didn't turn up, if the lights didn't turn up, or if a cast didn't turn up, or camera failed, I've got backup ideas of what could happen and how we can do it, so we don't have to stop. So it's just organisation really, and just trying to
sitting
keep
down,
a level head. Which doesn't always happen.
Easier said than done sometimes.
Yes, it is.
Bless you. So in terms of like keeping a level head, obviously I think sometimes the what solo entrepreneurs find most hard is working by themselves. But then obviously having the support of someone like Leroy, who you work with, adds its own set of challenges, because obviously you're together as a couple as well as working together. How do you manage that dynamic? Because I know it can be really good or it can go really, really wrong.
I mean, do you know what? It's going to probably sound really cliche, but so we've been together for 14 years. We've always done something creative or different when we've been together. So when we were first together, he used to do music, and then he's been doing acting. So it'd be like, oh, okay, I'll do your photos. So we've always kind of done stuff together.
Overlap.
Something creative.
Baby overlap.
Yeah, baby overlap, and just supporting each other in what we're doing.
It's lovely.
Which has actually really helped to this point. And I kind of feel like, okay, did I waste all those years doing photography and learning Photoshop? Or did he waste time doing acting and all the paranormal stuff he did? But actually, if we look back now, it's all kind of led to where we are now, in a strange kind of way. But yeah, so yeah, we've been together 14 years.
Wow.
I don't really struggle with it at all. We have the odd clash, I think, like anyone does.
Yeah.
But where we're quite different and we work in unison is I'm very much like the organisation, putting things together, managing multiple things at the same time. But he's very much the creative because he writes and directs, and he's very much in that creative zone where I wouldn't have a clue about the story and things that he tells me about, like the horror conventions and all the stuff that he's learned through scripting. I'm just like, oh, it's good. I don't necessarily know all the depths that he does, so it kind of works the way we're working together.
Yeah, you each have your areas of specialism that complement each other, and your different sets of skills which work really well together. And
if we don't agree all the time. Like I'm like, oh, I'm not sure on that, or he's not sure on this. But we don't argue and fall out, which is really good. Yeah. So yeah, it works well, and actually through him really pushing film and really pushing his ideas and really believing in it has made me believe in it more, and actually led me to what I want to do. So I've got a lot of thanks to him really for what I'm doing now, which is great.
It's amazing. It's so nice to hear that. If you have a disagreement, how do you resolve it? It's out of interest.
How do we resolve it? We kind of just disagree, and then I'll just sit there and be quiet, and then he'll be quiet, and then we'll just carry on. Which sounds like probably like no other couple, but actually, we just kind of just get on with it. At the end of the day, I found it quite difficult, and it's taken me a while to split emotion and work.
I think that's hard.
Because I do take things personally. Yeah. Like he was like, no, I don't agree with you, and I'm like, oh, okay, fine. But actually, it's all business, and we're building a business, and it's a product. So it's taken a while, but no, we just get on with it. Actually,
that's really
figure it out.
Do you have like boundaries in terms of work time and personal time?
No, there's none.
Really? Well, I suppose not, because I suppose, and would you say that depending on whether you're in an active project or whether you're doing different things, do you think that ebbs and flows in terms of like?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at the moment, there's like nothing. We've got, we're completely all in it, and we can't really do it any other way, really. We'll have a few evenings, we'll be like, we'll go out for dinner and have a bit of time, but we're always talking about it. Yeah. So we're kind of at the point now where this has got to work, and this is what we're doing. So I used to feel a bit like, oh, we don't have much time, just us two together, but actually this is what we want to do, and this is what we're doing together. So I wouldn't really have it another way, but there's not many boundaries. But I don't mind, actually.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good,
because I suppose you get to still spend time together, and you work on something that you're both passionate about, and you're working towards sort of building a life together, which is nice. So you don't necessarily need that split off.
No, like you say, we have a few times where we just have like a date night or something, and but most of the time it's constant film, which is, I can think of worse things if I'm honest.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of like, we've obviously covered off like the different challenges and how you get over them. In terms of like your whole working career, what's the biggest sort of challenge that you have faced and you've like had to overcome?
With film?
Just
or
in general.
In general. I would probably say believing in what I'm doing, actually. Because I've done a lot. I've done a lot of big events. I've managed a lot of large scale things, and I've literally thrown myself into film. A lot that I've learned from producing is from event work, but I've been someone that has kind of progressed through a company or self-taught. So I think probably just knowing what I'm doing and believing in myself more is probably the hardest thing to overcome, which is still happening, but the more things are progressing and we can see actually it's moving and we're actually getting there, it's a lot easier. But yeah, probably belief, I would say.
How do you sort of overcome it? Is that just like, do you think you have to keep consistently sort of pushing yourself outside of your...
Yeah, I constantly live outside my comfort zone, which I think actually helps.
That's amazing, though.
Yeah, constantly. Like, even events, I'm like, okay, there's so much could go wrong and it's on me. Yeah, events and film, and there's a lot of money put into this. So, yeah, I think just don't get comfortable with where you are and what you're doing. You have to keep doing it. Like, there's a lot of stuff I hate. There's a lot of things that I don't enjoy, like pitching, meetings, selling yourself.
It's hard, isn't it?
It's difficult, but you just got to do it. And, like, you think everyone's going to judge you, but they don't. And at the end of the day, if you know what you're talking about and it's really something passionate you want to do, then you just got to... And that's kind of how I've got over it, is just throwing myself into it and just believing in what I'm doing.
I think, like, there is that real, even like when I go to the gym or something, I'm always like, oh my God, everyone's looking. And I'm like, you're
actually, no one cares.
No one cares. No one really cares as much as you think. And I'm like, get off your high horse and stop being so self-obsessed. Everyone's looking
it's
at
the same,
you.
Though, isn't it? It's all the same.
But you do, I think it is just a natural thing that people, like, you always think that people care more than they actually do.
Yeah.
And they're judging you more than they actually are.
Yeah.
Because they've all still got their own stuff going on that they're all focusing on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you say, you've got to kind of just move past that. But I mean, it must be really scary when you have to go and pitch to like Sony or someone like a huge corporation.
Yeah.
But it's amazing, and I'm so proud of you, and it's just so incredible that you do it, because I'm just like, ooh.
Yeah, it's a bit. I mean, so we went to the Cannes Film Festival, so me and Leroy went in May this year. And it was like, we had a couple of big meetings with sales agents for the film, and it's kind of, it was a bit scary. You're kind of like, because I've never really done that in films, so you don't know what they're going to ask, and you kind of just got to prepare for what you think they're going to ask. But then it's like, okay, I could be scared, but at the end of the day, these people need content.
Yes.
So it's all that, you kind of can put them on this higher ground and pedestal, but at the end of the day, they need content.
Yes.
So that's kind of how I've sort of thought about those kind of meetings. It's like, okay, they need people like us. And if we're passionate about what we're doing and we know what we're doing and we know it's good, then...
That comes across.
You kind of have to just take it as it is, really, and just throw yourself in it.
I love that. So in terms of the content you've chosen to produce, obviously you're going to do horror.
Your favourite, Julia?
Yes, my absolute favourite.
Yes.
Chloe said to me that her worst nightmare is coming on the show and talking about like what she does. My worst nightmare is visiting your set.
Which
when you're
going to do.
Yeah, maybe can we do it like on a very calm day when there's nothing?
Maybe. I think the best ones are going to be the dark exorcism scenes at 3
I'm
o'clock
not
in the
going in
morning.
any woods. I'm not going in any like houses. I'm not going like in like with especially not if like you've got people dressed up and stuff like that. But anyway, back on track. What made you opt for horror?
Leroy's a massive horror addict, and I am really, but he's way more into horror. So this particular film is supernatural. So it's got a supernatural...
Do you want to talk about it? Can you talk about it?
Yeah, I can talk about it. So it follows. It's basically inspired by true events. It's a supernatural horror.
Do you know what I always say? I'm like, whenever I say inspired by true events, I'm like, what? It's got people in it.
It makes it scarier. And it follows the lead female. She's a medical student who studies at home.
Okay.
She suffers from sleep paralysis and then becomes plagued by this demonic entity that's coming in here now.
No!
After she moves in with her boyfriend, so she's suffering from all sorts of things like sleep paralysis, and it's kind of
demons, not a boyfriend. Is it? Sorry.
And it kind of it follows her journey and how she deals with it, and these demonic forces. I won't say too much, but that's pretty much the film. But the inspiration come through Leroy, who actually as a child experienced a lot of strange things in the house he used to live in. And he used to be quite open spiritually, not so much now, but he used to feel a lot. And years ago, he had his own TV channel online called Paranormal GI. So we kind of have both always been into supernatural, not sure what to believe. I think there's something there.
Yes.
So we're both massive horror lovers, massive paranormal lovers. We won't all be horror. Nocturnal Pictures is very much dark.
You're gonna do a princess film.
There's not going to be any princess films. If it's not horror, it'll be action or thriller.
That would be so cool, though.
So that's kind of, the company is based around the darker side of film, which is exciting.
It is exciting.
But yeah, no, I don't think we'll be doing any princess or romantic comedies. I don't think that quite fits what we like.
Some of them, I've been watching a few of them like recently, just like to chill out a bit, and I just think some of them I'm like, these are so bad still.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm like, and they've got like really like A-class, like Oscar-winning actresses in.
Yeah.
And maybe it's earlier in their career and they felt they had to sort of pay their dues and work into it. But I'm like, why are we still wheeling out? I love, obviously, it's really nice, it's really fluffy, it's lovely to watch. But if you take it seriously, it can have quite a big impact on how you perceive the world. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
because you take on board that that's maybe what it should be like.
Yeah.
And I think that obviously, I think it's a natural human thing to compare yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should necessarily compare yourself to films and everything. But do you see what I mean? Like, it does play into your psyche a bit.
It does.
Not
definitely.
horror, hopefully.
No, it does. And I think this is kind of... a film that we kind of, it's not just, horror, blood and gore and that kind of stuff. We kind of really want to leave people when the film's finished with a sense of, that was weird and it was inspired by true events. I'm going to Google it and find out a bit more about it.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of true elements. I mean, there's a lot of things in the film that can be searched and have a lot of people have experienced, especially sleep paralysis. See, there's kind of, there's more to it than just, full-on horror.
Just, like, to shock. Because I think, again, like, some of the horror films that I haven't seen, because I've seen bits of, they're just out there to really just shock and just get everyone to go, oh, my God.
Yeah, there's a lot of films with, like, the typical jump scares. And there's a lot... I mean, horror is kind of coming back. It never really went away, but... I think with the likes of Jordan Peele and Get Out and Us and that slightly different style of horror, it's very big at the moment and people seem to gravitate to it. And I think with the way horror kind of comes and goes depending on how the political views are. So,
that's interesting.
Yeah, so when things are really bad in like with Trump and all sorts of things going on in America, then you'll see a wave of horror films come out.
Interesting.
So it's kind of associated with a lot of different things, and people always love to go and see a horror and get scared. And
why do you think it is like that it reflects like the climate of the world? Why do you think
it's more when the world is really bad and things and there's crimes and there's deaths and there's all sorts of horrible things going on. You watch a horror to kind of see, okay, it's not as bad
as you think.
And actually, it's just escapism.
Yeah.
It's the same with like, if you like Disney, for example, it's like, okay, I'm just going to go to cinema, I'm going to watch this film and just escape my life for a couple of hours, and that's pretty much it. But horror is kind of a different version of that, and it's people go and want that kind of tension and be scared and
they can go, actually it's not that bad after all.
Yeah, exactly.
And Google stuff, you said they can Google like the elements of your film that you've like built around. They can actually Google
definitely
that.
I mean, there's I won't give too much away, but we're going to put some bits in the film and things after the film where they can see certain true elements and stuff. So
it's exciting. So exciting. It's really exciting. And I can't wait to see, like, do you have an idea when the film might be out roughly?
So we're starting filming in 6 weeks. So we'll be filming for about 2 months, and then it'll be edited in post-production, probably finished by April time next year.
Oh, amazing.
Now, depending on, we're in talks with a few companies at the moment when it'll be released, but we'd like it to be released end of 2020. So
that would be so cool.
We'll see.
Yay! That's amazing.
Yeah.
So and then next steps will be more films.
Yeah,
and the Oscars.
Well, that would be nice. So me and Leroy. So Leroy's got 3 other projects in development, which we're going to be working on. One is pretty much ready to go, which is horror, obviously. As soon as this is done, then we'll be looking for funding for the next ones, and hopefully then that will be the start of a flourishing career, which will be exciting.
Do you know what? I've got absolute faith, and I know it will be, and I know you're both going to be really successful, which will be really cool. If people want to connect with you personally on social media, and then also if they want to find out more about the film and Nocturnal Pictures, where can they find you? So
I'm on all socials, so Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. My Instagram and Twitter is Chloe C Producer. If they want to find out more about the film, it's The Last Rite, or our company's Nocturnal Pictures, so www.nocturnalpictures.co.uk. And the film and Nocturnal are all on the socials as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
No
for coming
worries,
and
thank
talking to me.
you.
Thank you.